hopefully, and you can just open your mic when you're being asked to talk. Okay, so let me share my PowerPoint again. So I hope you can see it now. So let me begin this orientation with the vision statement of Fellowship Baptist College. Although some of you here have already been students of Fellowship Baptist College, but for those who have not been in fellowship, and this is the first time you've been in fellowship, then it's very timely for me to present the vision statement. It says here, a globally recognized responsive institution of learning, shaping lives by providing excellent Christian education. So it's very clear that Fellowship Baptist College is one of those institutions that wants to respond to the needs of time and of course to the change in time, just like what has happened now. With the distance learning modality, it's very hard for us to reach to our students. But thankfully, we have several platforms that we can use online. And with that, it goes to show that we are among those colleges and universities that try to respond to this kind of challenges. And of course, that's being one of being globally recognized, because wherever you go with the documents, with the certification that you will get from Fellowship Baptist College, once you are finished with your course, you can definitely land a good job. And of course, shaping lives by providing excellent Christian education, because at the core of education is, of course, or are, of course, the Christian values that Fellowship Baptist College wants to infuse in the curriculum. Now, for the mission statement, it says here, Fellowship Baptist College commits to provide a Christ-centered learning environment conducive to the total development and competence of a person for service to humanity for God's greatest glory. So as you can see here, we provide Christian-centered or Christ-centered learning environment. And that is conducive to total development and competence of a person. So you will be graduating from Fellowship Baptist College, carrying with you not only the, okay, Abigail, are you raising your hand? Okay, or baka na-raise lang. Sige. So, yes, you are carrying with you the knowledge that the academe is teaching or has taught you, and at the same time, the values, the Christian values also that the academe has taught you. And that is our responsibility and also our duties to our students, or for our students, and for the humanity in general. And that, of course, for God's greatest glory. Now, for the institutional graduate outcomes, we have here six institutional graduate outcomes. When you graduate, we want you to become effective communicators. I'm very surprised that you're just first-year college students, but you speak very spontaneously. So it goes to show that you have already embraced your being in a Fellowship Baptist College even before the college has taught you, or maybe many of you here have been graduates already of Fellowship Baptist College in high school, right? So you have already experienced the type of education that Fellowship delivers. Second is competent professionals. So hopefully in the near future, when you finish your course, you will be able to pass the licensure examination. And once you get the license, probably some of you might proceed to medicine, hopefully. And when you become professionals, of course, we'll look forward to seeing you successful in your chosen career. And definitely with the kind of attitude that you will develop in here, and you will carry with you wherever you are, definitely you will become competent professionals. We also have another outcome, which is Christian team builders. Okay, so we want to propagate the kind of Christian values that we have through the work that we will show, especially as students. You will be able to also influence others to be just like you, to be model students. And eventually, when you graduate, these values that you carry with you would also serve as your guide in decision making. And it's very nice because you become agent of Christian team building. Also, number 4 is morally responsible individuals. So we understand that. And this job of yours, when you become licensed pharmacist one day, it really fits the kind of job that you have. You have the moral responsibility to help others, especially the sick people, right? And during this time of pandemic, you are among those who are considered as frontliners. So you have to keep up with that expectation, right? Number 5 is critically independent thinker and innovative problem solver. So we understand that as citizens of this country, we need to be critically independent thinker and also innovative problem solvers. So we do not just rely on whatever solutions are laid down to us, but we innovate so that we can also contribute to the solutions that we want to solve. We want to have to solve problems, especially in the field or of endeavor that you have chosen, in the discipline that you are actually studying now. And finally, we want you to become lifelong learner. Right now, it's really a challenge for teachers to be able to translate the knowledge, from us, from the books to you, considering that we are doing this distance education. We don't see your expressions now. We don't see your circumstances now. We don't know if my voice is clear on your end, if you're hearing me just clearly as I expected, or if you get the message that I wanted to cut across. So there are a lot of obstacles or sometimes factors that affect learning, especially during this time of pandemic. But what is being said here by lifelong learner is that you as a learner should embrace learning. You should develop this genuine love for learning. And for you to be able to do that, you have to be intrinsically motivated in yourself. So even if the teacher is not there, even if our situation now is long distance, the modality is distance learning. Even if the teacher doesn't see you as to what you're doing now, the love for learning is still there because we want to develop learners who value learning. So the internet has a wide array of learning materials that you can actually research and you can make use of to expand your knowledge on the course that we are learning now. So that is what we want you to be a lifelong learner. And for you to be able to do that, you have to expand and probably to navigate all possibilities that might increase your learning. But of course, there should have limitations to that because we understand that the internet has almost everything. So you should always look for legit sources as part of the characteristic of a lifelong learner. Okay. Moving forward, so we have here the program outcomes. So one is to select, evaluate, organize, and disseminate print, multimedia, electronic, and digital information resources. Okay, so I have mentioned earlier that we have to be careful because though the internet has almost everything, but we have to see to it that we know how to select, how to evaluate, organize, and disseminate print, multimedia, electronic, and digital information resources, particularly here in purposive communication, because we will be having like a requirement or an output for you to make. For example, you will be asked to prepare a PowerPoint presentation. And of course, I don't provide you sources. So it's up to you to look for sources. So this time, it's up to you to select, evaluate, organize, and disseminate print, multimedia, electronic, and digital information resources. That is responsible sharing of information resources. So that's one thing that we have to put in mind. Effectively communicate orally and in writing at the same time. Use a variety of communication methods in a manner that best enables the message to be understood. Thanks to technology, now it's easier for us to reach each other via Facebook. That's why we have Messenger. And I hope everyone has already been connected to our group chat. And also we have this Google Meet as our platform for synchronous lessons. We also have emails. You can even reach me via phone call. I have my number on the module. So later on, and I think that my number is also visible on Fellowship Baptist College website. You can also visit there and see and get my number, or you can get the number on the module. So there are a lot of ways that we can communicate. And again, the effective way of communication is being able to cut your message across. So it's not enough that you have said something. What is enough is that you make that person understood what you really want, because the purpose of communication is understanding. If there is no understanding, if misunderstanding occurs, there is no communication. Because the purpose, as I've mentioned, the purpose of communication is being able to understand each other and to be able to build good relationship with one another. So that is what is meant by effective communication. And that is what we want to develop in this particular program, Purposive Communication. Next is to demonstrate logical and systematic approaches to the accomplishment of tasks. So imagine you will be given a task, and your task is to write, for example, an individual note. For example, because right after this orientation, you will be asked to prepare an individual note. Okay? So when you prepare something, as a student, it is your responsibility to ensure that whatever output that you are preparing should be the output that you want it to be. It should be the best output that you could have. So always put that in mind. Always put excellence in everything that you do. And that is what we expect from students, especially of Fellowship Baptist College. Fourth is to formulate objectives, policies, and processes, as well as design and manage resources in anticipation of future educational or organizational changes. So there are a lot of things that probably might happen in the future. How do we prepare ourselves as students? So we have to be ready for that. I understand that we are not just battling against COVID-19 pandemic, but many of our brothers and sisters battle with mental crisis. Some of them are caught probably in a dilemma where they are having a hard time dealing with COVID-19, not physically, but mentally. So we have to put things in the right perspective. We have to set directions for ourselves, and that's part of the goals that we have or the outcomes that we have for this course. Also, to identify or to recognize, analyze, and constructively solve problems, provide appropriate direction and assistance, and overcome barriers when necessary. This is what I'm talking about. We experience a lot of problems. You might say that, oh, in this class, we have a lot of requirements. But students will never learn without these requirements. Students will not be able to grow if they are not being nurtured by their teachers. So our goal or our jobs as teachers is to provide you opportunities to nurture your skills. So please take challenges as something that would make you become the better version of yourself. Always take it proactively, because it is only by so doing that you would be able to think positively and be able to overcome challenges. I understand that many of you, for example, especially those who cannot connect with Google Meet, or for those who are having problems with internet connectivity right now, many of you may have experienced, stress already. And if this stress will continue, it is not good actually, because it will lead to something even worse. That is why in this class, I plan to upload this on my YouTube channel, because I want those who cannot attend the class to see at least the lecture. And for those of you who did not catch up the discussion or the lecture synchronously, you can still have the opportunity to review at least the lectures on YouTube. So that is why I will be uploading, with your permission, we will upload lectures on my YouTube channel. And you can at least put remarks there, like comments regarding the post, that would serve also as our platform for discussion, aside from the Messenger, because I know that you are using Messenger extensively, but we can also use YouTube as another platform for our online discussion. And I hope that you can also maximize its use. So partly we will do that. That is my other means to reach out to students, especially those who cannot afford to at least join us synchronously via Google Meet. So we are providing a lot of opportunities and a lot of platforms for you to visit and for you to use. The sixth one here is to identify users' needs and wants through reference interviews, customer survey, complaints logs, and other means in order to evaluate the effectiveness of current services and improve these and other practices. So perhaps in this course, part of the output that you will be preparing would be a sort of survey. You will conduct a survey, of course, you given the topic, and we will make use of that survey as part of information gathering. For example, interview, survey. So it would be an exciting experience. And of course, number 7 is to work well in groups and seek ways to build team efforts to solve problems and achieve common goals. The first requirement that I'd like you to prepare is a group work actually. And later on, I will show you the mechanics of that requirement. Of course, later on, probably next week, I'll be able to finalize the guidelines. But just to give you a snippet of what you will be preparing as a group output, you will be selecting members actually, because I will just be more or less giving you the freedom to select who you want to be in the team, and then you can come up with one single output. The purpose of that is to see how you work with others. So the grade that one gets, for example, the group will be the same grade that another person will get. So if there are like 5 of you, because I will only be giving or allowing you to form a group with the maximum number of 5 students in a group. So all of you will be receiving the same. And I hope that what is important here is that you contribute. We don't count who gives the most contribution. We count only how you collaborate, because collaboration is far better than, of course, the final outcome. It is how you collaborate, because eventually how you collaborate will affect the kind of outcome that you will have. Also, number 8 is to understand libraries, automation systems, and use of computer hardware. So we will not be able to use the library this time, although you can visit the library anytime. But of course, computer hardware. So now we are using computer software and the peripherals, including online collaboration tools. So it's this COVID-19 pandemic has given us the opportunity to maximize the use of online platforms. So now, just for this first class, we have already achieved the program outcome for purposive communication. So it's very interesting that through this, we would be able to maximize the different technology tools or online tools. Develop information, or yeah, develop information technology solution, library automation system, website, email system, etc. Right now, some of you have submitted their outputs in the previous class that I have. They have submitted their outputs through emails. And right now, you have already your emails, right? Without your emails, you would not be able to register on the website. And I have seen all of you have emails, so that's good. Conduct significant research project that will benefit the library and the organization. So that's one thing, and hopefully we can achieve that towards the end of this program. Evaluate and debate information policy such as copyright law, plagiarism, cyber crimes, and ethical issues applicable in local, national, and global context. Yes, because you will be writing academic paper. And when you write an academic paper, it is expected that you will be looking for legitimate websites, right? Reliable websites. And how do you know that it's a reliable website? So it's very important. You know, of course, when you cite the references, it's also very important to acknowledge the original source of that particular statement, because that's part of ensuring that we are not stealing someone's, someone's work. So as part of our, our goal to stop plagiarism, and also copyright law, to protect the copyright law or to uphold the copyright law. Also, the same thing when you prepare your PowerPoint presentation, because as I have mentioned, the first output that you'll be preparing is a group presentation. And you will be preparing a PowerPoint presentation for that. And I'm expecting that the sources that you will cite in your PowerPoint presentation should be properly cited. Okay, so including the URL, the website where you got the source. So these are important information that should be included in your presentation. Also, number 12 is to participate in continuing education activities organized by Library Association and other entities. Works well with others, so that's very important. Use the proper decision tools to critically, analytically, and creatively solve problems and drive results. So we have to make use of certain tools, how to analyze certain things and how to solve it properly. Discuss the latest developments in the specific field of practice, okay? And then communicate effectively using both English and Filipino orally and in writing. But here in this particular class, we will be using English, but if you want also to use Filipino at the same time, so maybe we can use Filipino because Filipino is also the language of the academe. So we have both language. You can language switch, actually. You can use either English or Filipino in this class. But basically, for purposive communication, we use English, although Filipino is allowed. And also, work effectively and independently in multidisciplinary and multicultural teams, hopefully in the future, especially not in the future, because in this particular period, as I have mentioned earlier, you'll be working in teams. So that would test already your teamwork, your behavior with your classmates, and exemplify professional, social, and ethical responsibility. Actually, I'm happy because this is the second year that we have made use of online platforms to deliver lesson. You know what? For the first time that I used Google Meet, I had a hard time communicating with students because many of them would open their mics, and while I was talking, they would also talk. So it was a hard time for me. But once the guidelines were set, students were able to understand their role, and their roles and the responsibilities, especially in online learning. So part of it, that's the professionalism and the way you deal with colleagues, the social respect is very important, especially in social. In this kind of platform. So maybe you might disagree with what the other person is saying, but you can do that without hurting someone's feelings. You can still do that professionally and ethically without harming someone's self-esteem, right? So that is why here we develop not only your ability to speak, but also your ability to deal with people and your sensitivity towards others, respect for others. These are key elements of purposive communication. And of course, the last but not the least is to preserve and promote Filipino historical and cultural heritage. Because above all, no matter how fluent you are in English, you may sound like a native speaker already, but we should always value our Filipino history and cultural heritage. And that is our contribution, not only to this particular course, Purposive Communication, not only to Fellowship Baptist College, not only to Cabancalan City or to wherever you are in Negros Occidental, that will be your contribution to the Philippines, our country. So how beautiful it would be if, all these program outcomes would be achieved by the end of the semester. I know that with you cooperating actively, proactively participating in class discussions and also in class homeworks and teamworks, it would not be impossible for us to achieve our goals, our outcomes, because the goal or the outcome would only be achieved if everyone would work hand in hand with each other. Okay, so now I'd like to ask you what purposive communication is. I'd like you to type your answers in the chat box. I'd like you to think about purposive communication. What is purposive communication to you? Please type it in the chat box. Later, I'll give you 1 minute to do this, and later I will ask a couple of students to read his or her work, and then yeah, of course, you share it with the rest of the group. Okay, so 1 minute begins now. Okay, how is everyone going? Okay, so still you haven't written anything. So please write something about purposive communication. What do you think purposive communication is? What do you expect from this course? Please type it in the chat box. Again, I'm giving you 1 minute to do it. Yeah, I have here a picture of communication, right? But so we have a lot of ideas here for you to make use of. So please come up with your own definition of purposive communication. Please type it in the chat box. Okay, so yeah, I don't see anyone typing yet. So, okay, thank you so much, Francesca. Francesca Moira, could you please read your definition of purposive communication here, please?
Good evening, sir. Yes, sir. Wait lang, sir. Now, purposive communication is being able to use communication devices and effectively send the message to the receiver without misunderstanding.
Wow, perfect. Good job.
Thank you, sir.
So we have here keywords. One, communication devices. Next is effectively send, and then without misunderstanding. Yeah. So of course, when you send an information, you choose a communication device, and that communication device should be effective enough to deliver your message, because the goal of purposive communication is always to eliminate misunderstanding. Okay, very good, Francesca. Now let's have okay, Jenny Rose, you're raising your hand. Do you want to say something? Or maybe you have mistakenly clicked, perhaps accidentally clicked the button. So let's have V and Grace, the Gia. Can you read your response?
Purposive communication is presenting or speaking with different people effectively and with intentions or purpose.
Okay, very well said. Good job, V and Grace. So we have here keywords: presenting, speaking, of course, with different people. I like it when you say different people, because we're talking here of different people in the context of a multicultural settings. You are dealing not only with your classmates, but with other people with different religious backgrounds, with different ethnicities, with different beliefs, with different professions. And despite the differences, you would be able to effectively, you know, cut your message across with intentions and purpose. The intentions and the purpose must be valid. So thank you so much. It's beautiful. How about Laika Bensai? Please read your answer.
Good evening, sir. Purposive communication is a way to communicate effectively and appropriately to multicultural audience or people with different beliefs and cultures.
Okay, yeah, you nailed it. Thank you so much, Laika. So again, we have here various keywords. Effectively and appropriately. I like it. Multicultural audience, okay? And then people with different beliefs and cultures. If you have noticed this definition, it talks about communication as effective and appropriate tool. And when you talk about multicultural audience, you talk about people with different beliefs and different cultures. And sometimes we cannot change people's cultures, right? We cannot change people's beliefs, but we can change the way we communicate to them, so that we would be able to effectively and appropriately lay down our intentions and purpose. So it's very beautiful definition, Laika. I like it. Let's have RM Claire Madrileño.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Purposive communication enables students to practice strategies of communication with a clear purpose and audience in mind, guided by the effective communication and appropriate language.
Okay, very well said, RM Claire. Very beautiful. It's good. So again, we have keywords here for purposive communication. We have strategies of communication. Perfect. Clear purpose and audience. And of course, effective communication and appropriate language. If you look into the communication pyramid, you can see purpose, and then the audience, and then the message. So you would see that in the communication pyramid. So in here, you capture the essence of communication, which is strategies. We have different strategies in communication. Do not say that this is how I speak to people. This is how I say things. So you have to understand me. No, that is not the goal of purposive communication. The goal of purposive communication is to understand your audience first before you understand yourself. because in so doing, you would be able to find effective strategies on how to deliver your message in such a way that you would be able to convey the intended message in the purpose that you have in mind, whether it's persuasive, whether it's for entertainment or just to give information, whatever that purpose in mind is, you will be able to effectively do that with proper mindset and preparation. What about from Roslyn and Lumakang? Please read your definition.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Um, purposive communication is writing or presenting to the audiences with various purposes.
Okay, that's right. Thank you so much, Roslyn. So we have here keywords writing and presenting with, of course, audience and various purpose. That's why when you are going to deliver a speech, for example, in front of farmers, do not make use of probably, well, it depends on the kind of farmers you're dealing with, but when you are dealing with ordinary farmers, for example, who have not even finished elementary or high school, it's not appropriate for you to use highfalutin words, right? Something that they wouldn't understand. In the same manner that when you are dealing with professionals, for example, it's not also appropriate for you to use terms which are too simple. So you can make use of somewhat academic terms. So, which means to say that the purpose of your speech, for example, as well as the audience, will determine the kind of message that you will prepare, because it's very important to consider these. Okay, let's hear from Sam Gabriel.
Hello, sir. Purposive communication is a topic and a subject that centers on how we convey our ideas and beliefs by executing activities such as writing and speaking. It is usually used as a way to indulge other people in various subjects.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam. It's very well said. So you have here keywords as convey your ideas and beliefs, execute activities such as writing and speaking, and also indulging other people in various subjects. So when you talk about indulging other people in purposive communication, it's not only that the speaker is the one talking the whole time. There are times also when you ask your audience to say something, because in so doing, you would be able to know if they are either listening to you or if they are still on track or if they are agreeing or disagreeing with you. So in that way, you would be able to check. We call that as temperature check as to how and what the audience are feeling as of the moment. So it's very important when you deliver public speeches, for example. Let's hear from Bernadette. From Bernadette, can you read it, please?
Yes, yes, sir. In my own words, purposive communication is the way we can communicate with others through online platforms and technologies and to approach students appropriate communication.
Okay, very well said. Wow, I can hear the cat. Maybe you're a cat person. Okay, so you have here keywords such as communicate, online platforms and technologies, and then approach, and then appropriate communication. So again, you are hitting the right definition of purposive communication because you made use of communicate and then platforms. Okay, we have several platforms, online and offline platforms. You also have appropriate communication. So these are all boil down to purposive communication. What about Cybel Wayne? Cybel.
Okay, sir.
Okay, please read.
Purposive communication is about connecting to various audiences, and its goal is to understand and relate with each other despite the differences.
Okay, I love this definition because you connect to your audience. That is one thing that we always do when we are delivering speeches. Even when we give lectures, it's very important to be able to connect to them. What would be the problem if the speaker is not effectively connecting with his audience. The problem is, or maybe the consequences would be the audience would not pay attention. The audience would be doing something else other than listening, or the audience would be bored. That is why it's very important to connect. And in communication, that's one of the goals, that is to connect, because being able to relate to them despite the differences would be able to redound to what your goal and purpose of that particular communication is all about. So in the context of learning, for example, teacher and students come from different generations. I come from generation Y, and you come from the generation Z, for example. So you look into the generation gap, right? But how do we communicate? We communicate because we are connected, we are related, we talk about something that is of interest to both the teacher and the learner. So it's very important that you have to meet halfway. As a speaker, it's your responsibility to hook your listeners into listening to what you're saying. In that way, you would be able to, again, achieve your goal of communication, which is understanding. Actually, there are a lot of comments here. I'm very grateful for all your comments here. Maybe I cannot give you time to read all of these comments because we actually don't have much time left, but these comments are recorded and this will become part of your participation for today. So for those who have not written their definitions yet, please do so. So let me read some of the comments here from Daneline. In my own words, purposive communication is about learning, speaking fluently, and writing properly. It can also help us speak confidently in private and especially in public. From Kyla Hikusala, purposive communication provides us to speak and communicate to other people and also to enhance our communication skill, to convey message, to relay concepts and ideas, and helps us to communicate well. Okay, very well said. From Brazil May, purposive communication is a communication between people with purposive of delivering facts or purpose of delivering facts, sharing ideas, opinions, and the goal to be understood. Okay, very good. Judy Marie Rainas, purposive communication is about writing, speaking, and presenting to different audience for various purposes. Wow, you are actually nailing the activity tonight. From Cyrene Miles, she said, purposive communication is critical in human life, especially when it comes to connecting with others and forming relationships. I think this is something refreshing because when you are communicating, you are establishing relationship. And that relationship would lead towards developing understanding. So that is why we try to avoid misunderstanding. And for you to be able to do that, you have to develop sensitivity. And sensitivity is only cultivated when you respect yourself and others. So that's very important. Thank you, Cyrene Miles, for the beautiful definition. From Ira Jane De Jesus, purposive communication is important because it would help us to convey more of the message to the listener. It will help us to communicate well, and communication serves as a bridge which connects every person to understand each other. Okay, very good. That's very long and nice definition. From Jenny Rose Balayo, purposive communication is very important in human lives, especially to connect people and make relationship with them. From Clarice de Assis, purposive communication helps to communicate with other people by delivering appropriate messages and ideas to build a good collaboration. From Abigail de Assis, purposive communication is a type of communication that has a purpose behind it. It relays information for a goal that is needed to attain by the communicator, source of the message. Again, a very good answer. From Jarian Segovia, purposive communication allows the speaker to communicate effectively and appropriately with the listener regarding their beliefs and perspectives. Wow, that's a very nice definition. From Alexandra Obligado, for me, Purposive communication is about how we present and deliver our messages to different audiences and for different purposes. Yes, that's right. From Audrey Marie or Mary, purposive communication enables students to become an effective speaker, and its goal is to understand, relate, and to build relationship to audience. Again, you nailed it. From Kyle Ermeo, purposive communication is about speaking or presenting to different audiences. This type of communication helps us to convey our message effectively. That's it. And finally, from Marinel Tababa, purposive communication plays a vital role in human life. It helps facilitate the exchange of information and knowledge and develop relationship with each other or with others. Therefore, the importance of communication skills in our day-to-day life cannot be underestimated. That's true, and we are still a lot more coming. So thank you so much for your participation. Although I have stopped already asking questions, but for those who have not written their answers yet, you can continue writing your responses. So all of these will be recorded, and I will be recording them for your class participation tonight. So you have already given a clear definition of purposive communication. Now this time, it's my turn to provide you the course description. Why purposive communication? What is expected of you in this course? So let me share the next slide. So here you can see our code, which is PURCOM, and the descriptive title is Purposive Communication. So it has 3 unit credits, okay? And of course, our time is 5:30 to 8:30 every Friday. And there is no prerequisite course here. So, and our consultation schedule anytime, because you can post your questions on Messenger, and also learn to back read. There are times when the answers to your questions are already posted. So please do not write something that has been answered already, or do not post questions that have been answered already. So make sure that you have scrolled up and you have seen all the comments above before joining the conversation. So that's one of the online etiquettes that we have to observe when we are using Messenger. Okay. And just a request from me, when you submit your weekly output, because I will be asking you to submit your weekly output, make sure that you use only Messenger for your weekly output. And your weekly output should be in a form of JPEG. You understand what I mean? In a form of JPEG, so that I would no longer be downloading your output. Because if I download your output, chances are whatever virus your computer has or your gadget has, it might also infect my computer. So to avoid that, I appeal to you that when you submit your weekly output on Messenger, because Messenger will be our platform for the weekly output, it should be on a JPEG format, okay? And then your quarterly output will be submitted via email or Google form, because I will be preparing a Google Drive or email. So you can either send it to email or Google Drive for your quarterly output. However, for the weekly output, I appeal that you submit it to me via Messenger. So but in a JPEG format. So if for example, our lesson for today is about orientation and you will make your individual note for this, you will submit it next Friday. The deadline will be next Friday and it will be submitted via Messenger, okay? Now, if you want it handwritten, you can take a picture of your handwritten answer and then upload it or send it to Messenger, okay? Now let's proceed to the description. So what is purposive communication, the course description? So purposive communication is about writing, speaking, and presenting to different audiences and for various purposes. That's CMO 20 series of 2013. So many of you here have given this definition earlier, and it's very impressive, right? Because you were able to probably search for the definition or even come up with your own definition. So either way is fine. Another here is Purposive Communication is a 3-unit course that develops students' communicative competence and enhances their cultural and intercultural awareness through multimodal tasks that provide them opportunities for communicating effectively and appropriately to a multicultural audience in a local or global context. It's very interesting. When I was in Japan 5 years ago, I happened to study Japanese with some foreigners. And during the course of my stay there for 2 years, I learned that the Japanese people have a hard time learning English because of the nature of their language. Before, when I hear people like from other countries say something in English in a very odd way, I probably would say like, oh, what happened to this person, blah, blah, blah. I might underestimate the person, something like that. But after knowing the problem that they have, especially for most Japanese, I realized that, hey, there's no reason for us to not respect them because they may not mispronounce things, I mean words, but in terms of grammar, they are so accurate. Amazingly, the Japanese people are so good at grammar. So that's why I was like, okay, amazed at my discovery. But of course, with this course, Purposive Communication, I want you to develop this sense of respect when you hear others who are struggling, for example, with their pronunciation. Um, if they mistook, for example, E from A or I from E, for example, if they mispronounce, words like that or words with those sounds, one attitude that a student of Purposive Communication should display is respect. So no laughing, no like underestimating someone or bullying someone for having that bad accent, for example. So part of the development of students in this course is for them to develop sensitivity and respect for others. So that's beautiful because you will be dealing with audience in a multicultural setting. And what more can you do than to communicate effectively and appropriately? And for us to be able to do that, respect and sensitivity should be observed. It equips students with tools for critical evaluation of a variety of texts and focuses on the power of language and the impact of image to emphasize the importance of conveying messages, endeavors, their chosen disciplines, and their future careers as they compose and produce relevant oral, written, audiovisual, or web-based output for various purposes. So, this course is so beautifully crafted. Why? Because it develops your communication skills, not only in speaking, but also with writing. And here with the emphasis on conveying messages. So which means that when you say something, you are accountable to what you're saying. And as a communicator, you should have that kind of feeling. If I say this to Miss A, would she be happy about it? I remember there was a story about the three sieves. Okay, one day a student of Socrates came to him and then said, "I have something to tell you." And then Socrates said, "Is it truthful?" Okay, so and then the student continued, "Yes, it is." And then let's go to the second sieve. Is it good or bad? So something like that. And then the bottom line of that story is that if you say something that is not truthful, that is not good or bad, I mean that is not good either, there's no way for you to say it. So which means you have to ensure that whatever you're saying is truthful and that it cannot hurt other people's feelings. Of course, there are times when you say that the truth really hurts, but you should always remember that not everyone can take the truth. And therefore, before saying it, see to it that that person is ready to hear the truth. So here in purposive communication, it's our goal to convey effectively messages. And what more can we use here is the impact of image, the power of language, and the impact of image. Have you noticed that some presenters, like Steve Jobs, for example, may his soul be in heaven, every time he would make a presentation, his language was always powerful. And what made his presentation even more unique was the infusion or inclusion of images. And these images complemented the kind of message that he wanted to convey to his listeners. When you prepare a PowerPoint presentation, you can also do that. If this is the text, what will be the image that would complement the text? That would be part of making presentations. And I hope that you would do that because that would make your presentation really beautiful. And you see, we will be preparing here both oral, what you're doing now, you're doing oral and written at the same time. But eventually you will be preparing an audio-visual material because I will ask you to prepare a group presentation given the topics for midterm and pre-finals. So I will be grouping, or you will group yourselves into with 5 members, and then you come up with an audio-visual material, a presentation in an MP4 format. So that's part of our course, which is so beautiful because during this time of pandemic and because of the availability of technology, we can easily, come up with different outputs that would capture the entirety of this course. Okay, and now let's proceed to our requirements. Later on, we'll have the open forum. So let's have the requirements to be clear for everyone. So we have here, of course, we have the examination. Examination will be given every term. So we have prelim, midterm, pre-final, and final. And that would be quarterly, okay? And then we also have the individual note, the précis or the reflection. So this will be done weekly. So if I ask, for example, this week, I ask you to come up with an individual note, for example. That's just one individual note. If it is a précis, so it's only one for that week. If it is a reflection, it's also one for that week. This précis, reflection, and individual note will serve as your quiz because we don't have quizzes anymore. That is why I want your weekly output to be substantial because that would serve already as your quiz. And quiz is 25% of your total grade. So which is why it's very important. And I would easily know if you are copying someone's work because all your work will be posted on the GC. So it must be different from the others, okay? And for the quarterly output, you have, of course, the quarterly. So for example, you will be made to prepare a PowerPoint presentation, and that PowerPoint presentation will be delivered using an audio-visual material in an MP4 format. So, that's your quarterly output, okay, for this particular grading period, this prelim. And for your participation, like oral participation, and for the other learning experiences, other related learning experiences or orally, you will be, of course, rated based on your participation in Google Meet, on Messenger if I post a question there, or on YouTube, particularly on YouTube, because I'll be posting videos there. So you can also type some comments under it, comments related to the video. For example, today's video is on orientation. So any insights that you have learned from this orientation, so you will type that on the comment section below the YouTube post. Okay, so the link of the YouTube video will also be shared on the GC. Okay, so do you have any questions for the requirements? Let's proceed now to the grading system. I'll be showing to you templates of the requirements, weekly requirements, so that you would use those templates as your guide in preparing your output. Okay, so let's have for the grading system here is 40% and it's given once in every quarter. Your quizzes will be in a form of weekly individual notes, praise or reflection. And for the quarterly, that's 25%. And for the quarterly output, the video presentation that you will prepare like the PowerPoint, for example, or the video, because the finished product would be MP4, that will be 20%. And the oral recitation and other related learning experience will be rated based on your participation in Google Meet, on YouTube, and on Messenger, but particularly on YouTube, because not everyone can access Google Meet. Although I will give extra points to those who can join the Google Meet, but of course, YouTube would be our main source for our platform for the oral recitation and other related learning experience. And the total would be 100%. Now, let me give you the samples of the templates that you will be using for the individual note, praise, and your reflection. Let's start with the individual note. So the individual note looks like this. There is a name in there, your year and section, and topic session. For example, your name is Bernadette Senizal. Okay, so that will be your name. Year and section, so BSP 1A. Topic session, today's session is orientation. What are the keywords that you have taken from our discussion? So you write it under the keywords. You write there purposive communication. What does, what did you learn about purposive communication in the orientation? You write it on the opposite part. So this is the keyword, purposive communication. Opposite to that, you write the statement. Okay, do not copy everything. Try to reword your answer. Okay, and then type a question, your essential question about this course. You may say, why is purposive communication important for pharmacy students? What do you think is the reason? Okay, so maybe we have the answer here on the other side. You can type there the answer. Perhaps the answer would be every discipline, every job requires effective communication. You will not be able to become an effective employee or worker if you have not developed your communication skills, especially as a pharmacy student, right? It's very important for you to be able to learn how to communicate with your colleagues at work, because that would redound to teamwork, collaboration, and successful achievement of your goal. Something like that. But of course, the question here should be somewhat related to our topic, or not somewhat, but should be related to our topic. And in summary, what did you learn about today's orientation? You type it in 3 to 5 sentences. So you would submit that, because next week, I want you to submit your individual note of today's orientation. Okay? So I hope there is no question about that. Let me check the chat box if there are questions. Okay. So far, no questions. So good. Okay. Let's proceed to the next. If the session would require you to prepare a reflection, for example, next week we will begin our first lesson. So I will be the lecturer on that day, and I will require you to prepare a reflection. So this will be the reflection template that you will use. Still, you have there the name, year and section, session, topic, and then the introduction. So the introduction is your own statement related to the related to the topic or to the session that is being discussed. You can even cite statements from authors, but make sure that you cite the reference of that particular statement. Do not copy a statement without acknowledging the source, or else you are plagiarizing already. Okay? And then the body, so paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3. Okay? And then I forgot to put there might be, there should have been conclusion in the end. And then I put here the summary in the last part because I want you to put together introduction, paragraph 1, 2, 3, and conclusion in one whole essay na walang division. Okay, so that's what you're going to do, to rewrite it in a summary. So it's one way of training you how to write academic paper, citing sources, legit sources, at the same time training your mind to think, okay, and to write, convey your message. The last is a précis. If you will be asked to prepare a précis, so the précis should have the following parts. But of course, you should have the name still on the top, the year and section in the topic. Okay, so the template that I will send you will contain those elements that I have mentioned. Don't worry. So you have there the author's thesis and method to represent it. Okay, so meaning the presentation itself, the results of your more or less of the discussion, you know, the things that you have discovered, and then the conclusion. What can you conclude out of the, you know, the discussion? So we have here tips on how to write a précis. It must summarize the content of the original. So it's a summary of the original. Second, it reveals the meaning of the original and explains its value. Wait, what is the value of this particular session? It is 1/4 of the original in length, except as noted. So which means that, you know, if the lecture is this long, so very short because it's a summary. And finally, it follows the standard format, an author's thesis and methods he uses to represent it, results, and conclusions. Okay? So, and finally, for the prelim requirement, you have here group video presentation for midterm and pre-final topics. And then topics will be given next week. Next week, also, I will show you a sample of the video lesson or presentation that my previous students have created, so that you will see, you know, how you will work on it. And at least you have also the guide as to how you would prepare it. And perhaps it could serve as your benchmark as to how you make it even more beautiful, more informative than the previous presenters. So my last note would be thank you for your listening. Okay, for active listening. I will stop now the recording, but I still would like to ask you